ضل العمر في سهو وفي لهو وفي خسر.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. As you know that this is class number 3, or should be class number 4, should say. But this is class number 2 in regarding of Tahaarah. And because I've skipped a class, almost I have been denied this class of Tahaarah. But I have to push it in order to finish your Tahaarah. And also, part of it is going to be a prayer. Okay? Because we want to go push ahead with this. So please, focus with me. And let's just go and fly into this Tahaarah, the last part of it, which is, first of all, ghusl. That's why it's important we talk about ghusl, the wash. For verily, the wash is compulsory in the following situation. That is when you are asleep and then you discharge the ghusl, the wash. The ghusl is compulsory when you're asleep and you woke up and you found yourself discharged semens, and you 100% is semens, then you have to make a wash. And this is called wet dream. You have to be certain that this is semens. So if, for example, you have remembered a dream, a sexual dream, but you woke up and there was nothing there, no ghusl. Do you understand that? So you have to have certainty that this is what is being discharged as semens. We have here the 3 situations regarding this issue. If you are certain that what had come out after you have woken up from the sleep is semens, okay, then you have to make a ghusl whether you recall a dream or you don't recall a dream. That's number 1 case. Case number 2, that if you have certainty that this is not semen, this is, for example, urination, this is water, this is not semens, then there is no wash upon you regardless whether you recall a dream or not. Now the 3rd case is the one which is, you're not certain. Is it semens or is it not? You're not certain. Is it sperm or is it urination? If you recall a dream, then you have to wash. If you don't recall a dream, there is no wash, because al-asl tahara, the default is that you are tahir. So these are the 3 cases. Remember them and you'll be happy. Second thing that makes as well for you to have a wash is that you have ejaculated. So if you ejaculations, it will, when you are awake, it will make you to have ghusl. So ejaculation, it has to be with the power. It's not because you came with this when you are awake, you discharge semens or sperm. This is male and female. Because of coldness, because of illness, there's no ghusl upon you. The ejaculation is with the power, okay, with the lust. The 3rd case is that you had intercourse. That means the head of the male organ went into the female private part. If it went inside, regardless you ejaculate or not, you have to make a ghusl. So if the head, just the head, went inside, you have to make a ghusl. If it's touching from outside, there is no ghusl. If the person who is a non-Muslim became a Muslim, he has to have a ghusl. And if the woman had her menses stopped, or the one who is on her post-natal, do you understand what's post-natal? She's been giving birth and then the blood gushed out and then it stopped. Then they have to have a ghusl in order to commence on her ibadah. So to have a ghusl. And also on the day of the Jumu'ah, that means only for the person who comes to the Jumu'ah. So if he's an adult, male or female, came to the Jumu'ah to pray the Jumu'ah inside a hall or a masjid, whatever it is, then he must make the ghusl according to the most correct opinion out of the 2 opinions of the scholars. So we got now dream, that's called wet dream. You have to have semens. The semens, ghusl. If there's no semens, no ghusl. Regardless, dream, you don't dream. But if you are not certain, then if you recall a dream, ghusl. If you don't recall a dream, there's no ghusl. Do you understand that? Are you following me? Okay. Number 2, that is when a person ejaculates when he's awake. Ejaculation with lust, not illness, or it is not cold. Number 3, person who had penetrated with his wife. Penetration without ejaculation doesn't matter. As long as the head went inside, you have to have a ghusl. Number 4, a man embraced Islam. He has to have a ghusl. Number 5, a woman, she finished her menses, or a woman, she has finished her postnatal, she have to have a ghusl. Number 6, a person who had come to the Jumu'ah, whether a male or a female, as long as an adult, he has to have a ghusl. Number 7, that is when the person dies, we have to give him a ghusl, male or a female, except, there is an exception here, there is no ghusl for the shaheed. There is no ghusl for the shaheed. As for the rest, they have to have a ghusl, wash. The shaheed, no ghusl for him. طيب. Now we're coming to the wash and its pillars. The pillars of the wash is intention, and that's a condition. That means you are not, let's say you're going to a swimming pool. A swimming pool, you're going to wash everything in your body, but if you didn't have the intention of having a ghusl, it will be just merely swimming. Okay, so you have to have the intention, and that's a condition. Number 2, that the body, all of it, has to be washed. So that is as well one of the pillars. So all the body. Now, is it including the mouth and the nose, or is it not? Okay, most of the scholars said yes. Our Sheikh Al-Albani, he got 2 opinions regarding this issue. He said you don't have to have the mouth and the nose to be washed. And another opinion, he said yes. But the correct opinion, what we believe is that you have to have all your body, including the mouth and the nose. But if you believe that opinion is correct, no problem. So you have to have all your body is to be washed. Number 3 is tasmiyah, saying Bismillah, and that's compulsory when you start your wash. Number 4 is that if you have hairy body, okay, you have to rub. So you have to rub. So you have to rub inside your hair. You have to rub inside your beard. For the woman, if she's making a ghusl of janaba, she doesn't have to undo her plaited hair, because that's too much. And she's going to be having with her husband sexual intercourse. It's going to be too much for undoing her plaited hair. So all you have to do is just wet that hair and wash it without undoing it, because it takes time. But if it is to do with her menses being stopped, or because of her postnatal stopped, then she has to undo her hair when she makes the wash for that purification. Time. It is permissible for the 2, husband and wife, to have ghusl in one place with no clothes on. But make sure that when you are together in the place where you're together, there's no kids outside watching you together going in, because that creates some sort of, puzzling, confusion for the child. So you should not do that in front of children. But you are allowed to see from her, she's allowed to see from you. Remember the economization of the water. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to have ghusl with the sa'. Sa' is equivalent to 2.8 liters. So imagine that this is a 0.5 liter, okay, which is 5. So if you got 3.5 of this, that's the ghusl of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tell me which one of you uses 3.5 of this, never mind to say 20 of this when he has a ghusl. True or not? Yeah, but 20 of that. Never mind 3.5 of this to have your ghusl. You keep making the shower going on, and you're taking your clothes off and it's still going and going. Allahumma musta'an. Now we come into the ghusl which are recommended. Ghusl which are recommended, that every time you intercourse, you have a ghusl. This gives you power. Ghusl for the istihada for every salah. The mustahada is the one we're going to talk about her. She has a prolonged period, not period. So it's better for her to have a ghusl for each prayer. We'll come to that inshallah when we talk about mustahada. A person who had fainted, it's recommended for him to have ghusl. It is not compulsory, recommended. Also, a person who had buried a deceased who is not a Muslim. If you buried a deceased who is not a Muslim, like Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu, when he buried his father, Prophet said, go and make a ghusl. That's recommended. Also to make the ghusl for the 2 Eids and Arafah, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, and Arafah. All of those ghusls are recommended. Remember, Jum'ah ghusl is compulsory, but Eid ghusl is recommended. Also, the ghusl after you wash a deceased. If you have washed the deceased, of course, you are not only allowed to wash a deceased, which is a believer, not a disbeliever. You're only allowed to bury a disbeliever if there is nobody to bury him. So if you wash the deceased, it's recommended for you to have a wash yourself. And also, when you make a state of ihram, hajj or umrah, it is also recommended to have a ghusl before you commence onto your ihram. Also, when you enter Mecca, it is better to have a ghusl as well. Also, if you are on janaba and before you sleep, it's better to have a ghusl so you could sleep on Tahaarah. If you are lazy to have a ghusl, okay, then you have wudu. This wudu is not going to make you able to do the Fajr prayer because you're still on janaba. You have to have ghusl. But this is for you to be in a state of Tahaarah on the bed. If you are lazy as well to make wudu, just make tayammum. Strike the wall with your two hands. Bismillah. Wipe your face and your hands. And you're ready to sleep in order to be sleeping. So the angel will be sleeping next to you as well. So that is why we say it is better to sleep on Tahaarah. طيب. Now we're coming to the tayammum. Tayammum is the dry ablution. And this dry ablution, alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal had given us as a concession. And we say that we sometimes need to have this tayammum. In case number one, there is no water. Or in case number two, there is water, but we can't use it. We can't use it maybe because this person, he is ill. This person, he is got eczema, can't use the water. This person has got a wolf or a beast or a lion next to the well of water, he can't approach it. So the water is there, but you can't use it for any reason. So for those reasons, a person has got water, but it's too cold and he hasn't got the means to heat it up, so that he can't use the water. So all of those things makes it allowed for the person to use tayammum. And tayammum can take over from not just the wudu, also from the wash. So if you are on janaba and you haven't got water, you make the tayammum. طيب. Now you have to understand that this tayammum will be enough for you to do all prayers. And the tayammum is whatever invalidates the wudu, invalidates the what? The tayammum. Whatever invalidates the wudu, invalidates the tayammum. But on top of that, there is something else which invalidates the tayammum. Anybody tell me? Or the availability of water. So there's a water there, it will invalidate your tayammum. If you have prayed your prayer, your dhuhr on tayammum, and then after you finish the dhuhr, the water came, you don't have to repeat your dhuhr prayer. But if it came before your dhuhr, then you have to make wudu or ghusl if you are on janaba. If it came while you are in the prayer, cut off the prayer. Straight away, it will invalidate your tayammum. So if the wudu, let's say you heard the water coming to you or whatever, and you are in the prayer, you have to cut off your prayer because that tayammum is not going to be valid for your prayer. Sorry about that. طيب. Tayammum is in the Sa'id al-Tayyib, which is in anything to do with the land, whether it's a rock or sand or beach sand or you could say a wall like this wall, this brick wall, as long as it got any plastering on top of it that prevents you to reach the cement of the wall. Okay. If it's emulsion, like a water-based paint, is no problem. You could make it like this one. It's emulsion, isn't it? This is emulsion. It's called water-based. It's not a layer that would be between you and the cement. It's like water. Okay, or dirty water is being painted on top of it. So you could touch that and make tayammum. You could make tayammum actually with the dust, which is of the carpet. If you've got dusty carpet, a lot, you could as well make tayammum with that dusty carpet as well, as long as you got enough dirt in it, enough sand in it. And you could make it as well with the tiles. You could make it with a wet rock, no problem. It doesn't have to have just sand or soil. So this is called tayammum. And the tayammum, as I said, is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب. The tayammum is as follows. You say Bismillah, and you strike with your two palms onto the land or the earth or the rock or the wall. Remember, it has to be a wall, not plasterboard. Plasterboard is not cement. Okay, it's something else. So you can't make tayammum, for example, with a tree. It has to be something with the land, with the dirt. Okay, right. Bismillah, you strike the hands, and then after that, if there is dirt into your hand, if blowing is enough for you to take it out, because you don't want to put particles of sand into your eyes. No. So if you blow it, if there is still something there hanging or lingering to your hands, so you just do like this. And for the sisters, I don't know, can they see me? Yeah. So do like this, and that with the sand goes, off from your hands. It will fall out. And then after that, you go with your face first. Go with your face. Okay, the face, and then your hands. You're ready now for doing any type of ibadah, whether you are on janaba or whether you are on a state of no wudu. That will be sufficient. Okay, so you start with your face and with your hands. The sa'id itself has to be clean, so you can't make, for example, tayammum with a rock which has got urination on top of it or a poo on top of it. It has to be clean. Now, طيب. Right. Okay, alhamdulillah. Now we come into the menstruation. Menstruation and postnatal. Menstruation and postnatal are for the women, but it's very important for the men to understand that and to have fiqh in it in order to give fatwa to his wife, to his sister, to his daughter, to his mother, all of those. Okay, so let's just pay attention, please. So it's not just for the sisters, this is for you as well, brothers. Okay, right. Al-Hayd. Al-Hayd, as I said, we are limited with the time, so I am going to make sure that I'm going to give you the important thing regarding it. Hayd is the blood which is known for the women, and it's different type of blood. It's not like the normal blood. It's got a specific smell. It's a smelly one, and also got a color, and it's really dark when it starts coming up. And this color of the blood, it could be dark and it goes fade in color. For example, reddish, then it goes to yellowish, muddy. Okay, all of those is okay. So yellow and muddy and red and dark, all of those are the color of the menses, and it comes out from the woman when she is in a state of health. It's not because she's ill. No, it's a state of health. She comes because Allah ordained upon her to discharge that type of blood once a month. It's like a cycle. And this is when she reaches her puberty. So one of the signs that she had reached her puberty is that the menstruation comes. She could have the puberty before that. She could have had, because puberty is decided, it was one of those, if it comes out, then you are adult. Wet dream. So if she had a wet dream, she's an adult before she's got menstruation. Or she had pubic hair. Or she reached the 15 years old. Completed 15 years old. Or if she's a woman, menses. Or one of these signs, it makes her an adult. This blood comes regularly at a certain time every month and keeps flowing for a certain period. Okay? And there is no specific age at which the menstruation stops. We don't know when does it start. We don't know when does it end. But normally it is the case. The women discharges menses when they are between 9 and 15. Normally the case. With these women who discharge menses before that, yes, there's the youngest British mother, she was 8 years old. That means she had menstruation. Okay, so but this is very rare. Also, as for the end of the period, how long? Normally it is between 45 and 50. Normally, they stop menstruating. But as I said, there is no limitation in the Sharia. It is discharged during women's state of health, as we said. This is not discharged due to disease, giving birth, or breaking the hymen. You know what's the hymen? The hymen is the like a barrier. So hymen or hymen? Hymen. Hymen or hymen? Hymen. Hymen. Right. Which is on top of the vagina, that if it's been penetrated. Okay, so it's not to do with penetration of that. This is when the sexual intercourse takes place. No, it's to do with something else. Normally the blood keeps flowing until the end of the menstruation. Normally, but there is some cases where blood comes out, drops, and then stops. We're going to talk about the abnormal cases. The length of the menstruation, instead of how long, also it varies from one woman to another. Okay, and there is no authentic proof that states a maximum or a minimum length of the time of menses. Only the woman determines the length of the time of her menses according to the signs. Normally it is the case between 6 and 7 days. This is 6 to 7 days. We call it the predominant customary period of the woman. The predominant customary period of the woman. Remember that, predominant customary period. This is 6 to 7 days. Because some women, they keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding for a long, long time. We say, okay, choose a predominant custom, which is 6 to 7 days. Choose that, and then after that, disregard whatever blood comes out. Right. Signs by which the woman can determine if she is on her menses. The time, the date, because it comes at a regular. Let's say the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, and the first quarter of the month. So the most important thing is the time. Okay, the time. Okay. Number 2, the blood's characteristics. Black, smelly, thick. That's characteristic of the blood of his menses. Number 3, consideration of the predominant customary period of the woman. So, we'll say that if she's got blood, but we can't distinguish, we'll give her certain time for that. As for the signs by which women can determine the end of her menstruation, number 1, the al-qassa al-bayda, seeing the white cotton. It's called the white secretion. At the end of the menses, the women experience that. But if she doesn't, then we'll say that is the stoppage of the blood. So the blood stops. So she puts a cotton inside herself and she sees that this comes out clean, that she's clean. But some women experience of discharging white secretion. That's the end of her menses. Also, the blood's characteristics, because it is, the change of the character of the blood, it fades down from thick black to normal, you could say open red. It's like a not dark red, okay, light red, and then goes with yellow, muddy, and so on and so forth. Fine. Also, the time and the date by which she regularly finishes, that she could determine her blood stoppage. Now, we have finished with, alhamdulillah, the menses, but I would like to talk about the abnormal cases. Abnormal cases of the menstruation. If yellow or muddy blood comes out during the days of menstruations, then it is considered part of the menses. Otherwise, it is not. So if she had this white secretion, the blood is finished, then after that she experienced yellow or muddy came out, which women should do, then this has nothing to do with the menses. Does it break the wudu or not? Controversial. Does it break the wudu or not? Controversial. We don't know. But according to the principle that we have set, that any impurity, if it comes out of one of the organs, front or the back, then it will invalidate the wudu. That's the necessity. So this muddy or this is muddy or yellowish thing that comes out, the muddy or the yellow, if it comes out, if you had said that this is impure, then it will invalidate the wudu. If it is not, then it will not. And that is controversial. We will say, to be on the safe side, make wudu. So if you have experienced yellow or muddy came out after your menses finished, make renewal of wudu. And this is the opinion of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah. Sometimes delays in the discharge of menses blood might take place. Sometimes. Therefore, the woman should disregard any pain that might accompany such a delay. Like, for example, the woman, she is at the beginning of the month, she has her menses. Suddenly, there's no blood coming out. But she's experiencing the same pain, headache, but there is no blood. She cannot consider herself on her menses until the blood comes out. So she should disregard this pain and all of this. Thirdly, the length of the time of the menstruation period may vary in some cases. In such case, the woman should watch for the end of the blood discharge. Also, in the case of blood being discharged as drops and stopping on the following day, the woman should look for the signs that determines whether she is on her menses or not. That means, let's say that at the beginning of the month where she menstruates, the blood came out. Following day, stop. But she knows herself that normally it is the case that her menses takes about, let's say, 7 days. So if it stops, she does not commence on her ibadah because she's still on her menses. She has to wait until what? The time. And so the following day, it will what? Come out maybe. Following day will come out until it is 7 days. And then she will start to do her ibadah. If any woman, she has a case and she's shy to ask, you should send a piece of paper regarding this issue. Inshallah, we'll solve the question for her. Normally the case is the women, when they start taking tablets to adjourn, postpone their menses, they mess up their menses, they mess up the cycle, and they mess up the mufti to give them the right answer. Because he can't determine whether it's menses or not menses. So the best thing is leave everything natural. Do not take tablets that would postpone your cycle, because it will mess up the cycle. Number 5, if this is the first time for the girl to have her menstruation, then she should watch for the blood's characteristics. Otherwise, she should consider the predominant custom. So she would look, this first time for her, she doesn't know when she discharges menses, she would look at the blood characteristics. If it is blood characteristics there, alhamdulillah. If it is not there, then we will say, look at the predominant customary period. That means choose 7 days for yourself, that's your period, because the first time for yourself. Right, let's go now to the postnatal. called it post-childbirth bleeding, postpartum. All of these names are for women who had given birth and she's discharging blood. So this is the blood which occurs after the birth of a child, regardless if the child survived the birth or did not survive the birth. This definition implicates the following. Number one, this bleeding normally begins straight after with birth. Straight after or with birth. But it may start 2 or 3 days before birth. That's rare occasions. We find the woman, she's discharging blood just about 1 or 2 days before the delivery of the baby. And that is considered as well from her post-childbirth bleeding. If a miscarriage takes place, then the bleeding is regarded also post-childbirth bleeding, regardless of the age of the fetus. This bleeding has no minimum duration. It could stop right up to the birth. 1 day, no problem. But normally it is the case, will start to gush for 40 days. So the maximum in Islam duration for this bleeding is 40 days. This is Hadith Salama. 40 days. So the color of the blood is almost like the color of the menstruation. Thick, smelly, black, dark. The sign for which the woman knows the end of her bleeding is for the blood to stop. There is consensus upon the impurity of the post-childbirth. So post-childbirth bleeding and menses blood, consensus, they are impure. Right, let's go back now. Abnormal cases during post-childbirth bleeding. What is the abnormal cases? Number one, if the blood stopped flowing within the 40 days. So 20 days after birth, the blood stopped. And then started flowing again before the 40 days had finished, elapsed. Then this period during which the blood had stopped is still considered as part of her nifas, part of her postpartum. Do you understand what I'm saying? Agree. She had given birth. We said the maximum is 40. She gushed for blood for 20 days, or for 1 day, for 2 days. And then she had no blood until maybe the 38th day. Between that day and the 38th day, she started doing her ibadah, fasting, prayer, and all of that. On the 38th day, blood came out. That means all that period that she's making her ibadah, all that ibadah is what? Invalid. Do you understand that? Because she had discharged blood before the end of the what? Of the 40 days. But if she did it after the 40 days, so she stopped on the 20th day, she started gushing again on the 41st day, then alhamdulillah her ibadah will be accepted. Is that understood? So the 40 days is her period for the post-childbirth bleeding. If the blood kept flowing for more than 40 days, then she should disregard this blood and start her ibadah and commence on her ibadah. But there is one case where she could extend that. Anybody want to tell me now? Yalla, let me just see if you have understood. When was the case that if the woman, she's gushing after her birth for 40 days plus, we said she should disregard the plus after the 40 days, except in one case.
If it started before the birth?
No. Huh? Yes. If her menses synchronized with the end of her 40 days. Do you understand that? So if her menses was at the beginning of a month and her 40 days finished at the beginning of the month, so she will add another 6-7 days, whatever she used to be does for her menses. Well done. Right, forbidden acts during menstruation or post-childbirth. So if you are in menstruation or menses, menstrual blood, or you are on post-childbirth bleeding, what are the forbidding things that you should not do? Prayer, tawaf, sa'i, fasting, marital relation, divorce. I'll repeat again. The prayer, you cannot do any prayer. Tawaf, you can't do tawaf on the Kaaba. Sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and this is ijtihad from Shaykh Al-Albani, and we believe it's correct. Can't do, because sa'i is linked anyway to the tawaf. Fasting, can't fast. Okay, you have to be pure from from dawn to sunset. So if you had your menses did not stop until after dawn, you can't fast that day. And if you fasted that day and your menses came just before sunset, that day will be invalid. It has to be clean. All the way, no blood, no menses, no post-childbirth bleeding. Also, marital relations. So everything is allowed except for sexual intercourse. So if your woman is on her menses, which was post-childbirth bleeding, you could do anything you want, but you cannot make what? Intercourse. The private part into the private part. And also, the divorce. Man may not divorce his wife when she's in her menses, because This is we call it bid'i divorce. Bid'i divorce, does it take place or doesn't? Controversial. Correct opinion, it does take place, but it's prohibited. You are sinned for giving a divorce to your wife within that time, because you have made her iddah not known, because she doesn't know that she's pregnant or not pregnant and all of that. So when can I divorce the woman? I could divorce her when I have a free cycle where I didn't touch her. So she had menstruated, and then she had a cycle, a period where she hasn't got any intercourse, then I could divorce her. But if I intercourse with her, I have to wait until the other cycle, and then she's cleansed. So I have to make my divorce to the wife once she is cleansed from her menses and I haven't touched her sexually. Okay? Because otherwise I don't know if she's pregnant or not. I cannot, this is haram. But if you did it, you're sinned. Does it take place? Is it going to be counted on you or not? Controversial, correct opinion, it does take place. Because Abdullah ibn Umar, he did it, and he was commanded to go back to his wife, and then he was asked again, do you want to hold her, or do you want to give another divorce? The first one, he said, حُسِبَتْ عَلَيَّ تَطْلِيقًا. It was counted upon me as a divorce, one divorce, even if it's a bid'i divorce. Fine. The following acts are permissible during menstruation and post-childbirth bleeding. Entering and staying in the masjid, no problem. As for the ayah in Surah An-Nisa, this is to say it's preference to be pure, but it's not correct to be that. You're not allowed. Prostration for tilawa, gratitude. So prostration, you have heard an ayah that, or you read an ayah yourself. You are postnatal, you are menstruating, no problem, because it's not a salah. Sujood is not a salah. Same thing for gratitude. You've heard good news. You prostrate as well, no problem. Recitation of the Quran, no problem. As for touching of the Quran, it is also permissible if she needs to do so. If she needs to do so. And by the way, I'm talking about touching the mushaf, the book itself. But touching the mobile is not a mushaf. Mobile is a mobile. Mobile can give you anything, but it's still a mobile. So no problem for the mobile to touch it if it's got Quran. But as for the mushaf, women on her menses, they're allowed. But not if they are on janaba. Man on janaba, not. Because you can just go and clean yourself from the janaba. But the menstruating woman, she is from God. She can't do anything about it. She has to wait. So if she's in need, because she's hafiz, she needs to touch the Quran, no problem. She doesn't have to put gloves on and all of that. Performing ihram and stopping at Arafah. Aisha, she had her menses, and she went to the Prophet ﷺ for the Hajj, farewell Hajj. She did everything that the Hajj does. She went and made labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik Allah, and all the way she went, and all the way to Arafah she went, but she did not make tawaf. No, she made sa'i. She didn't do the prayers as well. No. طيب, useful points during menstruation. This is the last thing before we go to the prayer now, alhamdulillah, and that will be more than 20. We said 40 minutes? Yeah, so it's about another 5 minutes, yes? MashaAllah, we are on time. So the second part will be about prayer. طيب, useful points during menstruation or post-childbirth bleeding. Women are obligated to inform their husband about the start and the end of their menstruation. They have to, so that they'll make them not to make intercourse. No marital relation is allowed until she performs ghusl after menstruation or the post-childbirth, it stops. So even if she had stopped her menses, she cannot approach sexually as an intercourse. You could do anything apart from intercourse until she has what? She has a ghusl, a wash. If a marital relation took place, listen, accidentally during menstruation or the post-childbirth bleeding, due to ignorance, forgetfulness, not knowing that this is his wife was menstruating, not knowing that his wife was menstruating or forced, then there is no sin or expiation on him. He forgot, she forgot, they made intercourse, and then she's on her menses. They are ignorant, they don't know the rule. Okay, or one of them is being forced, like the wife is being forced. She's got nothing on him. It's on him. It is him who's to be blamed. But if there is no force anyway, nobody to be blamed, no sin, no expiation. If intercourse, listen sisters, this is for you sisters. If intercourse was performed intentionally during menstruation or the post-childbirth bleeding, knowing that it is forbidden, and by his own choice, then he has committed a grave sin, major sin, for which he must repent. Also, expiation is required of an equivalence of 1 dinar or half a dinar of pure gold to be paid to the poor people. This depends upon his financial circumstances. Rich man, he will pay an equivalence of 1 dinar. What is a 1 dinar? 1 dinar is 4.25 grams of pure gold. Each gram at the moment is about 50 pounds. So you're going to be paying about 250, something like this, as an expiation. If you're rich. If you're not rich, half of that, 225. Depends. You give it for the poor people. That's if you did it deliberately. Okay, so if the child was born through a cesarean and there was discharge of blood, but not from the vagina, then this blood is not considered post-childbirth. So if the blood came up from the belly, stomach, this is not post-childbirth bleeding. It's only if it comes from the vagina. If a woman performed ghusl after finishing her menstruation or post-childbirth bleeding, she must undo her plaited hair, as we said, and rub until water reaches the roots. As for ghusl of janaba, she doesn't have to do or undo, sorry, she'll have to undo her hair. Fine. It is recommended for a woman when she performs the ghusl after menstruation to take some cotton smeared with musk or perfume and wipes it over the traces of blood. To wash the menstruation or the post-childbirth bleeding from the clothes, use water, detergent, rub and scrub, and put it just in the washing machine. It will do everything for you. After this, any trace, if still there, no problem. So if there's still trace of the blood there after you've done all of that, no problem. It is permissible but not advised for a woman to take some medicine to delay her menses. Remember we said it will mess up her cycle. It is permissible for a woman on her menses to wash the head of her husband. Hadith Aisha, she had washed the head of the Prophet ﷺ. It is permissible to eat and drink with a wife having menstruation. The Jews, they don't do that, you know that. They put her in a separate room. They treat her as a beast when she's on her menses. We don't. It is recommended upon menstruating women to witness the Eid festival and listen. It's recommended. So even they are on menses, they come to listen to the khutbah, but they don't pray. If the menstruation started after the prayer time has commenced and she did not pray that prayer, then she must perform it once finishing her menstruation. Listen, sisters, if your menstruation or the post-childbirth bleeding started after the prayer time had started, let's say it's dhuhr now, and the dhuhr now elapsed half an hour, which you're able to do your dhuhr, but you suddenly the menses blood came out. Then as soon as you get cleansed, you have to do that dhuhr that you have missed. Okay? But now it says here that if the menses blood started after the prayer time has commenced and she did not pray that prayer, then she must perform it once finishing her menstruation. Listen now. If the menstruation stopped before Maghrib, then she must perform Dhuhr and Asr. Okay? So if the menstruation stopped before Maghrib, she has to pray Dhuhr and Asr straight away. If it stopped before midnight, she must do Maghrib and Isha. Hadith Ibn Abbas and Ibn Auf. Fasting is invalid once the woman menses, even if it took place just before Maghrib. We said that. If the menses stopped before dawn, she may fast even if she did not make ghusl. Let's say she had her menses stopped just before dawn, but she did not make a ghusl. The ghusl does not invalidate her fast. Okay? So she can do the fast, no problem. Lastly, when the woman stops fasting in Ramadan due to menstruation, she should pay attention not to break her fast in front of her young children, as it might confuse them. Why is she telling us to fast and yet she does not fast? So be careful for that. Right. Coming to the last thing now, prolonged istihada. This is now blood or bleeding outside the regular time of menses, or the bleeding connected to those times but continues beyond them. So you finish your menses but still the blood comes out. Okay, that is called prolonged. This definition implicates the following. Number one, it is irregular and may come at any time. It's irregular, and may come at any time. It is a strike of shaitan, as the Prophet ﷺ described it. Number three, it can take place straight after or before or connected to menstruation. Or post-childbirth bleeding as well. It has no specific time or duration, and it is pure. Listen to me, it is pure, and its purity is controversial. Some scholars, they said it's impure, depending upon the human blood is pure or not. But we said before, remember, the human blood is what? Pure. Because we don't have any proof for that. So this is not the menses blood. So it is pure, but it is controversial. Therefore, the rules of menstruation do not apply in this case. Cases of prolonged period, bleeding outside the regular time of menses. This case is clear and easy to distinguish. Case number 2, the bleeding is connected to the menstruation, therefore lasting longer than usual. In this case, A, consider her customary period, and what remains is istihaba. So let's say that her customary period was 10 days. She always 10 days. So now this time the bleeding is going beyond the 10 days, continuing. So disregard after 10 days, disregard that blood, because it's called what? Prolonged istihaba. She starts commence her ibadah. Now if she doesn't know her customary period, she's the first time, she looks for the characteristics of the blood. So the blood goes from thick, dark, until it fades to yellow, muddy. So after that muddy, if still bleeding, khalas, you disregard that after the yellow and the muddy. So she looks for the characteristics of the blood. C, if she doesn't know her customary period due to forgetfulness, or it is her first time and cannot distinguish the blood characteristics. Now she got no characteristics, no period, customary period. She should consider the predominant customary periods of that means she chooses 6-7 days out of that, that's her period, and the rest is prolonged period. Fine. Lastly, rulings regarding a woman experiencing a prolonged period of blood. Rulings regarding a woman experiencing istihaba. She is considered as those who are pure. She may embark upon doing all types of worship, such as prayer, fasting, i'tikaf. She may also come to the masjid if she keeps her blood in check. Number 2, she should take precautions by cleaning her vagina before performing wudu. Then she should wear something which soaks up the blood. It is preferred to do what she can to keep the blood in check. She must do wudu for each prayer, meaning her wudu invalidates once a new prayer time has started. So she's experiencing istihaba, prolonged period. She cannot do her wudu until the time elapses. So she cannot do wudu before dhuhr. Once the dhuhr starts, she makes the wudu. And that wudu will break straight away when Asr comes in. She has to renew her wudu for Asr. Is that understood? Because we call her from Ahl al-A'dhar. She got excuse. Because she's got an excuse, she cannot have this concession until the excuse starts. So the excuse starts when the prayer starts. So she cannot perform wudu before the what? Before the time of the prayer. Okay. It is not compulsory upon her to perform ghusl to do her prayer, but it is recommended. The only compulsory ghusl that if she must perform is when she finishes menstruation, post-childbirth bleeding. It is recommended for her to perform ghusl for each prayer if she wants, or she can perform one ghusl pre each combination. Meaning, she could delay dhuhr until the end of its time, bring Asr to the beginning of its time, and then she performs ghusl for both of them. One ghusl. She's praying dhuhr at the actual time of dhuhr, but at the end of it. She's praying Asr at the actual time, but at the beginning of it. So let's say Asr starts at the moment, let's say it's 2:30. So she delays her dhuhr until, for example, 2:25. 20:25. And she brings her Asr 2:30 straight away. So she had one ghusl, which is sufficient for both of them. She doesn't have to make wudu again. One ghusl for both of them. But she may have marital relations while she's experiencing the prolonged. So no problem to have marital relations if she has istihaba, not if she has menstruation. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. By which, alhamdulillah, we've finished now all things linked to the Tahaarah. And we've got another 40-minute session after the 10 minutes break, which we will talk about the prayer بإذن الله.
تولى العمر في سهو وفي لهو وفي خسر تولى العمر في سهو وفي لهو وفي خسر.
طيب, as-salawat. There are, in terms of prescribed prayer, in the day and the night, 5 daily prayers. It doesn't mean we don't have other obligatory prayers than that. No, we do. Jumu'ah is obligatory. It's not part of the 5 daily prayers. Also, Salat al-Jinaza, Fard Kifaya, communal obligation. Okay? Also, as according to what we adopt from the scholars' opinion regarding Eid Salah, it is compulsory as well. So we're saying here that this is in terms of day and night, the 5 daily prayers. The prayer in itself, what is the rank of the prayer in the deen, is so important that it's from the 5 pillars of Islam, it comes second. After the testimony, after the Shahada Tawheed, first practical pillar is the prayer. So 5 pillars start with Shahadatain. Second one, وَإِقَامَةُ الصَّلَاةِ, establish the prayer. Now the prayer is being imposed upon the Prophet, not on earth, in the heavens. Do you know the story about that? The story when the Prophet ﷺ, he made the Isra wal Mi'raj, the night journey. Then after that, from that journey from Mecca to Bayt al-Maqdis in Palestine, and then from Palestine, he had the lift. It's called Mi'raj. Him and Jibreel shot up the heavens in no time. First heaven, second heaven, third heaven. Each one used to meet one of his prophets, friends, companions, like we first heaven, Adam alayhi salam, and so on and so forth, until he reached the 7th, where Ibrahim alayhi salam. In there after that, he had the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala imposed upon him the 5 daily prayers. And that is beyond the lot tree. The lot tree indicates where Jibreel cannot go any further. He said to him 5 daily prayers. But at the beginning he said 50. 50 a day it was. Until he went down with the lift and passed by Musa alayhi salam, the 6th heaven. He has asked him, please sisters, please, if you don't want to listen, let other people listen. If you don't want to listen yourself, let other sisters listen. So he went down to the 6th heaven. So he asked him, how many imposed upon you the Lord? He said 50. He said, go back, because I tried the children of Israel, they couldn't take this. So he was between the Prophet of Allah, Allah Azza wa Jal, and Musa alayhi salam. Up and down, an increment of 5 prayers was decreased. So 50, 45, 40, 35, 20. And every time he goes down, Musa said, go back and ask for reduction. Go back for the reduction. Just like Allah khairan Musa alayhi salam. Until he went back to what? Down to what? 5 daily prayers. When it was 5, Allah, he said, that's it. No decrease. It's be 5, and you will have the reward of 50. So you're praying like 50. 5, and this is something ordained by the Almighty. He went down, Musa said, go and ask for a reduction. He said, no, I am shy now. Prophet said, I'm shy. Do you know how many prayers imposed upon the Jews? Do you know how many? Bani Israel? 3. 3 prayers. Okay, they've got 3 prayers in the day and the night. So we've got 5 prayers. Alhamdulillah, that shows you the importance. Now, in terms of abandoning the prayer out of denial, no doubt you're a kafir. If you denied the prayer, you said, prayer is not part of the deen, you're a kafir. But you are a person, like so many Muslims, unfortunately, believe the prayer is to be a pillar of Islam, but you are lazy. You pray sometimes, you pray don't sometimes, sometimes you pray only the Jumu'ah of the whole, sometimes you show yourself on the Eid. Oh, brother, I never knew that you're a Muslim. Subhanallah. First time you see him in the Eid prayer. Okay? Sometimes the person does not pray at all, but out of laziness. He is amongst the difference among the scholars. Some scholars is a kafir. Some scholars, he said, he's a criminal, not a kafir, still a Muslim. The correct opinion of the two would believe that he's a criminal. He's not a kafir. He's still a Muslim. And we are not here to debate this issue because it will take another class. Right. Now, upon whom this prayer is compulsory? It's compulsory upon, number 1, he is Muslim. It's not imposed upon the one non-Muslim. Number 2, adult. If it's not an adult, it's not going to be accounted for that. Number 3, has got common sense, sane. So he's Muslim, sane, adult. If he's insane, it's not compulsory upon him to do the prayer. So as for the child, we teach him when he is 7. We could teach him before that, but we could just now watch him when he's 7. And when he's 10, we discipline him. Discipline him, that means we tell him off. Or slap on his hand. Why are you not praying? Slap, a light slap. No spank. Spank in Islam is not allowed. Spank on the backside. Slap on the hand. Why didn't you do the prayer? So after 10. Right. That's for the kid. As for the insane, it's a hypocrite. He's like pecking, like a crow. Maghrib starts with the sunset. So when the sunset, the whole disk disappears in the horizon in the west, that's the Maghrib starts. When does it finish? It finishes when the red twilight in the western side disappears. Do you understand that? So you look at the sun sets at the west. So you keep looking at it. When the red twilight, red, disappears, not the white. The white stays for a long time. It stays for in this country maybe another 20 minutes. Still there is a light. But I'm talking about the red. If the red disappears in the west, that's your Maghrib had finished. Normally it is the case. An hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. Not like some timetable says 2 hours, 2.5 hours. That's not correct. Okay, so be careful. Always pray your Maghrib at the beginning of the Maghrib. Don't delay it and you think I've got until the Isha starts. These calculations of theirs is not based upon eyesight. It's all of it based upon calculation. It's not correct. Some of it is correct. Isha. Isha starts after the red twilight disappears. Until when? Until when? Okay, that's important. Midnight. What is midnight, ya ikhwan? Midnight is the midpoint between Fajr and between sunset. That's called midnight. So what time is the moment is Maghrib? What time is the moment is the Maghrib? And before you think about calculate. 4:10. Let's say for calculation 4 o'clock. Is that okay? What time is Fajr? It's about 6:30. Let's say for the sake of argument it's 6. Just for calculation. 6 between 4 and 6. What is the midpoint? Yalla. Huh? No. 11. Who said 11? Well done. Because from 4 o'clock to 12, that's 8 hours. And from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that's what? 6 hours. So we said 8 hours plus 6 hours, 14. Half of the 14, 7. Add the 7 to the 4 or subtract the 7 from the 6, you end up with what? 11. It's not 12 o'clock. The midnight at the moment is less than 12 o'clock. It's about 11. So you cannot postpone your Isha after 11. It will be prayed outside its time. So now you understood times of the prayer. The prayer of the Wusta, the most important prayer. Which one? Asr. As Allah says, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Observe the prayers and the middle prayer. The middle prayer, as the Prophet said, Salat al-Wusta. طيب. Now we come into, when do you consider that you have caught up with the prayer? Let's say that now you are praying your Fajr, you woke up, you're lazy, you just woke up before sunrise. You did not do your effort to wake up on the Fajr. You were just watching a movie and you're not putting your alarm and just basically you wake up, you don't wake up. You woke up just about before sunrise. Sunrise at the moment, let's say it's 8 o'clock. So you woke up 7:55. You need to make wudu. You need, if you have a janaba, you have to make ghusl. So if your ghusl pushed you outside 8 o'clock, you can't pray. If you made your wudu and you're not in janaba, you have to make sure that you have prayed the first sajda of the first rak'ah within the time. Otherwise, your prayer is invalid. Do you understand that? So to finish the first sajda of the first rak'ah, as the Prophet said, "Man adraka sajda al-ula," he catches up with the first sajda, the first rak'ah within the time. فَقَدْ أَدْرَكَ الصَّلَاةِ. You had caught up with the prayer. If you did not, you could continue your prayer, but your prayer is not going to count as a fajr. That means you're going to have to repent to Allah and increase in voluntary and seek Allah's forgiveness. Allah forgives you. Pray as much as you can from the voluntary in order to compensate for those missed two obligatory. Okay? Right. So you considered that you prayed within time. If you have managed to pray first sajda, the first rak'ah within the time. Same thing with Isha at the end of it, like before midnight. Same thing. Fine. Qada. There's no such thing qaza. The qaza has to be done within the limitation and the condition of the Sharia. If you have forgotten the prayer, listen to me guys, if you've forgotten the prayer totally, or you slept through the time, you pray it as soon as you remember it or as soon as you wake up, straight away. And let's say, for example, you have put your alarm there, mashallah, for Fajr, and you always wake up, but this time, I don't know, it was you so tired. You've been traveling the night before. And you woke up 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. You just wake up. If you're on janaba, make your ghusl, and then you do your fajr, and your fajr is on time. You woke up 7:55. And you are on janaba. If you took ghusl, you're going to be outside the time. Do you do tayammum? Or do you ghusl? Ghusl, no tayammum. Because you have woken up with what? With a legitimate excuse. You've done your alarm, but you woke up just 5 minutes before the sunrise. Because you were so tired. You wake up, make your ghusl, even if your prayer is outside the time, it's still within the time. Because you've done your best. Don't do tayammum. There's no such thing tayammum. As for the person who is lazy, you woke up, we said 7:55, 5 minutes before the prayer, he's on janaba. He has to do ghusl, no tayammum for him. If he caught up with the prayer, caught up. If he didn't catch up with the prayer, then there's no prayer for him. He has to repent to Allah and increase in praying voluntary. Is that understood? Now you understand, alhamdulillah, what is qada. طيب. What are the prohibited times? The prohibited times is the last thing, inshallah, before the question answer. Prohibited times in the prayer are as follows. Prophet ﷺ forbade us not to pray in the following time. Listen, when the time is in its meridian, which is the zenith, about 15, let's be on the safe side, 15 minutes before Dhuhr. So Dhuhr, let's say, start 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock. So 10 minutes before that, 15 minutes before that, don't pray. If you go to a Hanafi masjid, you'll find a flashing clock. You see it? Red one, the alarm. It goes during Dhuhr. That means don't pray, don't pray. Which is correct. You're not supposed to pray. But this is only for the prayer which is voluntary, that has no reason, like duha. General voluntary. But for a prayer has got a reason, like for example, you are praying Tahiyat al-Masjid, don't sit down until you pray Tahiyat al-Masjid. Okay? Right. If you prayed, for example, your Fajr no wudu, and you remembered in that time, pray your Fajr, no problem. Let's go now to the second time. Second time, when the sun is setting. So when it goes to yellow, red, don't pray at that time until it sets. Third time. Anybody tell me the third time, what is it? And that is when the sun is rising. When the sun is rising, you're not allowed to pray until it has risen. Again, 15 minutes to be on the safe side. From 12 minutes to 15 minutes. Until it is above the horizon by a spear length, which is 2 meters. 2 meters height. I was watching the sun a number of times, and I could see when it is about, I could measure about how much far it is from the horizon, and I will know that this is the time to pray your prayer. So you could start praying now. So if you are doing, for example, this 2 rak'ah of shuruq, they call it, some people they call it, when they do the fajr, they stay until fajr, until sunrise, and then after sunrise they wait for about 15 minutes, and they get up and do 2 rak'ah. It's equivalent to do Hajj and Umrah. Hajj and Umrah, without tickets, without plane. Ajr, reward of Hajj and Umrah, full, if you do that. طيب, alhamdulillah, now finished the 3 times, which is zenith, sunset, and sunrise. There is as well another time which is prohibited. If you have prayed your Fajr obligatory prayer, also it is not allowed for you to pray until the sun had risen 10 minutes after that. So once you pray your Fajr prayer, even before sunrise, you can't pray after that. Okay. Also another one which is prohibited, which is during the khatib when he is making his khutbah. Only to Tahiyat al-Masjid. You pray Tahiyat al-Masjid and sit down. That's it. There's no prayer when the khatib is on until... So if you are praying Salat al-Jum'ah in a hall, not in a masjid, then you have to sit when the khatib is delivering his khutbah. Now, طيب. Now, in the Jum'ah prayer, there is no such thing as called zenith. So if you came to the masjid and you prayed 2 rak'ah and the imam is not there, you could keep 2 rak'ah and 2 rak'ah. It doesn't matter if it is just about 2 minutes before Dhuhr. There is no zenith in Jum'ah. Do you understand that? Jum'ah is different. You could pray as much as you want. As for the place, there's an exception as well. Which place? Haram. In Mecca, Prophet ﷺ, he told Abd Manaf, don't prevent anybody who wants to come at any time, day or night, to make tawaf. And because of the tawaf, he's got 2 rak'ah after that. No problem at any time. By this, alhamdulillah, we come to the last title, which is the places which is prohibited for you to pray. What are the places? Anybody try to tell me the places?
Graveyard.
Graveyard. Number 2, toilet. Number 3,
Camel pen.
camel pens or camel stables, whatever you want to call them. Okay, you cannot pray. Is it camel pens or stables? Really pens? Because sheep pens, but not camel pens. No. All right, they're like horses. Right, this pen is really small. They're not gonna hold the camels. Right, the camels. Camels, you can pray at the sheep pens, no problem. Chicken barns, no problem. But not the camel pens. So those are the 3 places which are not allowed to be prayed in. And then inshallah, adhan is our next topic for next week, yes? Next week, inshallah. How many questions regarding what we have heard? Alhamdulillah, I'm really thrilled of the amount of material which I've covered. Now, further.
With the women's the postnatal bleeding, if the woman stops bleeding after,
can we ask for everybody to listen, because the sisters maybe are not able to hear, so if you could just give him something so I don't have to repeat the question again. Yes, read.
It's working?
Yes.
so for the sisters, if a woman has given birth but she stops postnatal bleeding or it becomes very, very less, or it goes away maybe after 30 days, does she carry on not praying up until?
No. If she stops the blood, she carries ibadah straight away, even if it's after 1 day. Some women is for 3 days and they stop. They have to start ibadah straight away. But if the blood commenced again before the 40 days, whatever ibadah she did in that period is invalid. Okay? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. But if she commenced blood after the 40 days, her ibadah is accepted. Take the microphone.
Sheikh, for example, you know the woman who has that bleeding that comes after
A woman has bleeding after
the period, so it carries on even though the menses has finished. So you said that she has to make wudu after every single salah. So for example,
that's not menses, by the way. Don't mix up, please. This is called istihada. The woman is in her istihada, which is bleeding outside the menstrual time cycle. Yes.
Yeah. So then, what about Jum'ah? Like, would she have to make wudu for the first adhan or the second one?
No. Very good question. I'm impressed here. Because we said that the woman who's in her istihada, she has to start making her ablution when the time starts. So the Jum'ah. Your Jum'ah starts as soon as you come out. So it doesn't start with Dhuhr. So your Jum'ah starts once you come out. The Jum'ah doesn't start with Dhuhr time, as people think. So you could start Jum'ah and finish Jum'ah at 10 o'clock in the morning, no problem. But no masjid does this, because if they do it, you find lots of people who are ignorant. They will say, what is this Jum'ah? I've never heard of this Jum'ah. You could make Jum'ah at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock, well before Dhuhr. And you finish Dhuhr before Jum'ah, because Jum'ah is not linked to Dhuhr. It's different, okay? Now, so once she starts the when she goes, she makes her ghusl, her wudu. Now, you have to take the microphone. And Ikhwani, I prefer the first rows first. Sheikh, first row first and then the second. No, give it to him, the first row. Next time, sit to the first row. Should you take priority? Further.
Did you say that if you pray 2 rak'ahs before Fajr, it's counted as if you don't have your Umrah?
Not before Fajr. No, I think you didn't wake up. Wake up now, inshallah. I said, if you have done your Fajr prayer, you stayed in your musalla till the sun had risen, and then 10 to 15 minutes after, we said be safe 15 minutes after, you pray 2 rak'ah, then it's equivalent to making Hajj and Umrah as the Prophet. So you have to stay until that time. It's a bit difficult. Now.
Hello. Yeah. So this is just to clarify, if I've missed the prayer, but just let's say because of work or whatever, what is the process? Like what can I do? I know it's wrong, but sometimes.
So a person had missed the prayer deliberately. There is no time. There's no way for us to reverse the time for him. We are not in Hollywood here, and we don't have Superman to reverse the earth and all this rubbish.
Sometimes I
So-
feel like you just do it after, like you just catch up with it, like it's not right. But this is the same to do it after as
Yeah,
to
so
not do it.
well, عفى الله عما سبق. If you are ignorant, the person is ignorant, there's no problem. You're not going to be accountable for what he does. But now, Allah He said, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Prayer is time book. You have to do the prayer Dhuhr, and it's time of Dhuhr. Asr is time of Asr. There are difficulties times. In the difficulty, prayers become 3 times, not 5. Dhuhr and Asr become 1 time. Maghrib and Isha become 1 time. But always Fajr stays on its own. So in luxury circumstances, the prayers times are how many? 5. In hardship times, like you're traveling, like you're being pushed, like you're a doctor who's a surgeon, you are a baker, you can't leave the bakery until do you understand me? In that sense, you could combine Dhuhr and Asr together, or Maghrib and Isha together. So they become 3 times. Dhuhr and Asr, all of it becomes 1 time. Like you have an exam, a test or something like that. You have to give somebody else now.
Yeah, just last one. So for example, me, I'm a barber and it's very, very busy. Like I'm really getting stacked out with clients. Would it be permissible for me sometimes to put them together? Like it's literally back to back all day. I literally don't have.
You have to pray on the time on his prayer, unless it is a necessity. I don't know what type of work do you do. Are you a surgeon? You open the Baba.
It's
No,
like-
Baba is not you. Baba is bye bye. Baba is a bye bye. You have to do it on time. There's no combination. So you take a head. How long are you going to take the head when you cut the hair? Half an hour maximum?
No, it depends.
1 hour?
Sometimes 45, sometimes 30 minutes. Sometimes
So I'm giving you the maximum. 1 hour?
yeah, maximum 1 hour. Yeah.
Say it's 1 hour. MashaAllah, is this person, he wants you to do everything in him. 1 hour. So we say, you look at the time. Dhuhr started. I'm going to start. If I start my barbing here for this cut, this person 1 hour, then I've got time still until Asr. If I start now, it's 1 hour. It's going to kick me out into the Asr prayer. I will pray first. Brother, excuse you, sir. I have to pray my prayer. Come back and do it. That's how you do it. Put priority to Allah, not to the customer. Put priority to Allah, not to your pocket. Put priority to Allah, not to the dunya. Allah comes first. And then Allah will give you more rizq. Believe me, more rizq. Give you an example. Me and my brother, we open a bookshop next to the masjid. Next to the masjid. All the bookshops during the time of the prayer, they stay open. They can't, sort of let go of any rizq gonna go during that time. They have to open. SubhanAllah. We got a little sign there on the door. So every time we go to prayer, the sign, the shop, you could see from the, it's like a, what do you call that screen? Security. Okay? We say, we are in prayer back, and we got a clock. We could put the clock whatever we like. So we put the clock, for example, 15 minutes after. It's 5 o'clock, for example. We put 5:15. We don't say we are back in 15 minutes because you don't know when the 15 minutes started. That's a joke. And we tell them which time. Okay? So we leave, and sometimes the shop is full. We say to them, brothers, sisters, we can't, I have to go and stop. Go to the prayer. We do the Jumaadah. The prayer, it's about 1-2 minutes walk. We do the Jumaadah, come back. Believe me, Allah put rizq in that shop that we have a queue. God knows how many. The shops, the other ones are open. The other libraries are open. They don't go to them. They're just waiting for that library. And believe me, we had about maybe 1 hour backlog of these people just to serve all of this until we finish. Backlog. Allah gives you rizq. We're not really caring about these people that are open. They are letting them open. We are caring, but Allah is pleased with us. Make little rizq, more rizq. We know that Allah gives us barakah in that rizq. That rizq was me and my brother divided in half. We found much more rizq than the one we get more, yet there is no barakah into it. Alhamdulillah.
Sheikh, you mentioned about Jum'ah. You can do it any time, like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
In that situation, would you do your Dhuhr on Friday as well? Or no?
Jum'ah, Sheikh, if you pray Jum'ah, there's no such thing called Dhuhr. But unless you're a traveler, you don't want to do Jum'ah, you do your Dhuhr. But once you do your Jum'ah, that's it. There's no Dhuhr. That's Jum'ah. And also, if the Jum'ah is combined with Eid, as we're going to come to the Eid prayer, there's a controversial something as well. That if you prayed your Eid, which happens to be on the day of Jum'ah, definitely, you don't have to come to the Jum'ah prayer. But do you pray Dhuhr? That's controversial. Do you understand me? So if you prayed in the morning 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever the sunrise, your Eid prayer, and it happens to be the Jumu'ah, you don't have to come to the Jumu'ah. And you don't have to come to the. It's good to come, but you don't have to come. But do I pray Dhuhr at home? That's controversial. Our Sheikh Al-Bani says no, you don't have to. No.
Okay. Questions from online. For the person burying a non-believing parent, is a ghusl for them, meaning the one burying, or the dead parents?
It's the ghusl no, for them, the one who is burying. You don't make ghusl for the disbeliever.
Is
Okay.
tayammum valid when there's water?
Is it tayammum is valid when there is water? Tayammum is valid if there is water and he can't use that water. We said if there is water, but he can't use it. The water is freezing and he can't have that freezing water because it's going to affect his bones and he has no means to heat it up. Then he could use tayammum. Question before he goes. Question to everybody. A person is able to use the water. Can he make tayammum with the beach sand? Why? Beach sand, you know, nice. You know, on the beach. Very nice sand there. That beach sand. First of all, yeah, the sea is available, yeah, so you can't make it. You understand that? No tayammum is allowed because there is a sea. Massive water, mashallah. Like here, inshallah.
If a sister gets a period after Dhuhr time begins and she hasn't prayed yet, does she have to make it up when she's cured?
I said that. Yes, she has to make it up. She's asking because it's first time struck her ears. Nah.
If a woman never had a husband in this world, who will be her husband in paradise? I.e., she passed away before getting married.
She doesn't have to worry. This woman, she didn't have any husband and she died. What she gonna have any husband? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will satisfy her. I'm not saying that she's not gonna have a husband. No. She will have her satisfaction like other women will have their satisfaction. So she will be given either maybe a righteous person, one of the righteous people, Allahu A'lam, but we don't have any sort of information about what she's going to have if she's got no husband in her life. I'm sure that person was asked whether it's a male or a female. He's not in such a situation. He's just asking out of the curiosity. No.
Someone travels for Umrah, can they stay one night in Jeddah, then travel to Mecca the next day to complete Umrah, or do they have to complete the Umrah on the same day as they arrive in Jeddah?
No, you don't have to complete your Umrah on the same day, but you have to be in state of Ihram for the whole day till you make your Umrah. So you have to be in your clothes of Ihram, you cannot touch your hair, you cannot touch your nails, you cannot put perfume. So no problem to stay 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, up to you, but nobody would like to stay in such a state of Ihram that much. No.
Is the Hadith Qudsi the speech of Allah uncreated?
Is the Hadith al-Qudsi?
Speech of Allah uncreated.
Is the Hadith al-Qudsi a speech of Allah uncreated? Ikhwani, you have to understand what is the Hadith al-Qudsi to understand. Hadith al-Qudsi and the ayat of the Quran is differed in the way that Al-Quran muta'abbadun bi-tilawati. Quran, that when you recite it, it's like a ibadah. But when you recite the Hadith al-Qudsi, it's not an ibadah. The Hadith al-Quran, you say Alif Lam Mim, each one's got 10 hasana, 10 hasana. So Alif Lam Mim, 30 hasana. Whereas it's not the same when you recite the Hadith al-Qudsi. So when the Prophet ﷺ had said, Qala Allah, Allah said, definitely that is uncreated. But the Prophet ﷺ's wordings is created. The Prophet ﷺ's wordings himself is created. So when he says, Qala Allah, Allah said, these are created. And then after that, that is the one which is quoting from Allah. Of course, it's not created. Okay? But don't go into these details. We say, for example, Allahu khalaqana. Allah created us. And He created our tongue. Okay? So when we speak, our tongue is created. And also the words which comes out is created. But the words itself, al-maqru', which is the one which is being read from Allah, that's uncreated. Do you understand that? No. But let me just be very important this one. So, but don't say lafzi bil Quran makhluq. My spoken of that word is to be created. That is in itself, Salaf did not use it. We don't need to say it. So Quran is the word of Allah. Hadith al-Qudsi is the word of Allah. Okay? Hadith al-Qudsi is the word of Allah, but it's not like the Quran in terms of, for example, it is not mahfuz like the Quran. So we have Hadith Qudsi which is not authentic. Okay? So it's not like the Quran which is preserved. Number two, you can't recite it as the Quran, as in terms of each letter will carry 10 hasana. It's not the Quran. Nah, further.
Can a woman enter the masjid for classes during her menstruation?
She can enter the classes, she could enter the masjid, and this correct opinion, she could enter the masjid even on her menses. There's no proof whatsoever, which is clear cut, that she's not allowed to enter the masjid. The proof that is being brought only by Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, which he says that the woman who's in her menstruation during the Eid, she is to avoid the musalla. To avoid the musalla here, in another region, to avoid the salah. The musalla in the Eid is not an area of salah. It's an outside. You cannot limit where is the area of the people. The more people come, the area is going to expand. So there's no such thing that on that spot you're not allowed to pray, because that spot could be what later on where people will leave. It's not right. So it's the salah is not allowed. Wallahu a'lam.
My flight leaves at the beginning of Maghrib, but when I get to my destination, it will still be Maghrib day.
MashaAllah.
Should I pray on the plane?
Where is she flying? She's flying what? Towards the west, towards America.
Question is, should I pray on the plane or when I land in my destination?
No, she has to pray when she lands. Definitely, don't pray on the plane. Even if you arrive Isha, pray on the land, Maghrib and Isha combined. Don't pray in the plane unless the two prayer times, Maghrib and Isha, is going to be on the plane. Don't pray Dhuhr and Asr on the plane unless the whole flight is going to be from Dhuhr and Asr. But if you are having certainty that the time you could land before the end of Asr, then make your Dhuhr and Asr and land on the land. Now,
does a breastfeeding woman have to breastfeed the child for 2 years? And when can she wean the baby without taking its out?
this is to do with two things for the baby for 2 years. That's the first part of the question. This is to do with, number one, what is beneficial for the child. Number two, this is to be with ittifaq, which is like synchronizing opinions between her and her husband. So she and her husband will decide how long the baby should be, but it's not a must upon her to give him milk from her breast for 2 years. It is not. This is if she wants to complete if she wants to complete her breastfeeding, but she doesn't have to. So she could give him for 1 year, 6 months, depending upon what is good for the baby. Sometimes the milk is not enough for her. Sometimes it's going to be hurting her. Okay, sometimes it's not. So it has to be, she has to consult her husband about this. No problem to stop even the baby after 1 month, because he's not getting as benefit. But remember, babies, when they drink from the milk, is more healthy for her and for him. For her, less likely she'll have a cancer. Women, they have a cancer, breast cancer, because of, if they have milk, they don't breastfeed. When the woman breastfeeding, very unlikely you're going to have what? Cancer. So you could have cancer here, but breast cancer is a lot in the West, a lot. We didn't hear about it in our countries, very rare. Because the women, mashallah, they milk all the time, they breastfeed, mashallah. Now, and the second part of the question?
When can she wean the baby without taking its heart?
Yeah, well, you said it. I'll explain it now.
Are illustrations in children's books and toys allowed, such as teddy bears? What do we have to look out for?
The toys for the children. Any toy for the children is a toy as long as it is a toy. Meaning, there's two opinions. Shaykh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, has to be homemade and has to be from the wool. But the opinions of the scholars is sound as long as, number one, it does not imitate something which is haram. Have you heard about Barbie? Barbie the toy. Where they put this Barbie, she's got even her backside showing properly, even her breast is showing properly, and they got even Barbie with hijab and all of that. That is not a toy. It's basically is more of a perfection of something. Teddy bear is not perfection, no problem, but it has to be a teddy bear which can be played by the child. Not a big, huge teddy bear. If he falls on the child, they will suffocate him. Some of the teddy bears, it fills up the corner. Have you seen it? That child, if he goes into it's danger. It's a hazard. That's not a child. I think it's a souvenir. This is something to beautify decorate your house. It's not for the child. So as long as a toy, I've seen some shuyukhs, children, they play with proper toys. But as I said, toys which are representing not haram. Some of the toys are reflecting a caricature, for example, which is haram, like the five Salahif ninjas, five ninjas, the immortals, the reincarnation for them and all of that. That's haram. Salahif ninja. Nah.
If one makes an oath to do the night prayer, then when they normally wake up, they set 2 alarms, but they oversleep. Do they have to expiate?
If these people that 2 alarms they can't wake up, no problem. Safwan ibn al-Mu'attal, sorry, radiallahu anh, he was one of those companions. He used to wake up very late, even after sunrise. He's done his best, and even his wife, she complained to the Prophet ﷺ about this. Okay, but he did his best.
Just a follow-up on that. Is it permissible to make an oath to do the night prayer?
So repeat the question again.
If one makes an oath to pray the night prayer, and they normally wake up, they set 2 alarms.
Oh, so it's night prayer, not Fajr.
It's for the
Why do they make an oath? Don't you make oath on terms of ibadah? No. So this person, if he had made an oath and he made his best to wake up, but he did not wake up, does he expiate? Yes, he expiates. Nobody told him to make an oath anyway in the first place. Make an expiation, inshallah. But don't make an oath, that's an advice. Khwani, last questions, please. Fadal.
Last question is...
last question from here as well. Hang on a second. Fadal.
Regarding children's book, if they have pictures of them, are they allowed?
They're allowed to have pictures as long as these pictures are not haram. Fadal.
If you're traveling with your family, not with your family.
If you're traveling with your family.
So, if you're traveling and you're about to come back into your area, but you know by the time you come back into your area, the time for Maghrib will go. Do you have to pray along the way, i.e. like on the motorway, or go look for somewhere with your family, or can you come home and you can combine your prayers? Right,
so basically you came from a journey.
Yeah, so you're on the way home.
A journey, please say to me, journey. It's a travel.
Yes, a travel.
So you came in travel, and this is before Maghrib.
This is before Maghrib.
And you came in, can I pray Maghrib? Can I just stop? Have to pray Maghrib? You don't have to stop. You can just go all the way and arrive there at home at Isha and combine your Maghrib. Hasabi Maghrib. 3 rak'ah, Isha 4 rak'ah. Okay?
Okay, cool.
No problem. No. وسبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
تولى العمر في سهو وفي لهو وفي خسر